You're worth $95 million. And the last time your ex-wife saw you, you were driving a 2011 Silverado with a cracked windshield you kept meaning to fix. She still thinks that truck is the ceiling of what you became. She has no idea it's the floor. This isn't a story about revenge. It's not really a story about her at all. It's a story about the distance between what people can see and what actually exists, the performance of a life versus the architecture underneath it. Most people spend money to prove something. You spent 13 years buying things nobody was impressed by, and that's the whole reason this worked. The morning it becomes official, you're standing in a Sherwin-Williams in Elkhart, Indiana, holding two paint swatches that are nearly identical, trying to decide between oyster white and alabaster for a duplex you've owned since 2014. Your phone buzzes. It's an email from your accountant, a woman named Carol Anzalone, who's handled your books since the divorce was finalized. Subject line, Q2 Consolidated. FYI. No exclamation point, no fanfare, just a PDF attachment and one line of body text. Numbers are in, we crossed 95. Call if you want to walk through it. You don't call right away. You finish looking at paint. 14 years ago, you were splitting a 2-bedroom rental with your then-wife, Renee, on a street 2 blocks from where you're standing now. She kept the townhouse in the settlement. You kept a rusted Craftsman table saw, $400 in a joint savings account, and, though nobody would have called it an asset at the time, a habit of noticing things other people walked past. That habit is the entire story. Renee remarried 3 years ago, runs a nail salon, drives a leased Tahoe. As far as she knows, you do something with rental properties, and that's where her curiosity ends. She has never asked for a number, and you have never offered one. There's a version of this where that bothers you. It doesn't. The quiet has always been the point. The habit started with a laundromat nobody wanted. It was 6 months after the divorce was final, and you were doing exactly what you'd done every Sunday since the settlement, driving nowhere in particular because the apartment felt too quiet to sit in. You passed a building on Prairie Street with a closed Ask Next Door sign taped inside a dusty window. 6 Speed Queen machines visible through the glass, half of them missing coin boxes. Most people would read that sign as a dead end. You read it as an address. The owner was a widower named Hal Bramwell, 71, who'd run the place since 1987 and just didn't have it in him anymore. He wanted $14,000 for the building, the machines, and the lease on the 2 units above it. You had $22,000 total to your name. You offered $11,000. He took it in 9 days, mostly because you were the only person who'd asked. The math in the beginning was almost embarrassingly small. 4 working machines generating $340 a month after utilities. Not enough to quit anything, not enough to tell anyone about. But it was $340 a month you hadn't had before, and it existed because you'd stopped for 90 seconds where everyone else kept driving. 18 months later, you did it again. A coin-op car wash 2 towns over in Bristol, 4 bays, 1 broken vacuum, owned by a man named Pete Ostrowski, who was retiring to be near his daughter in Sarasota. Asking price $58,000. You put $9,000 down, financed the rest through a local credit union that didn't care about your credit score, only your down payment and your plan. Net income after the loan payment, $610 a month. 2 properties, under $1,000 a month combined. Nothing that would have impressed Renee or anyone at her sister's 4th of July party or the version of yourself that used to believe wealth had to announce itself. But you'd noticed something by then, a pattern hiding inside the boredom. The assets nobody wanted were the assets nobody was competing for. Every seller was tired, aging, or grieving something, and every one of them just wanted someone to take the burden seriously. You weren't smarter than anyone else. You were just willing to stand in front of an ugly building for longer than 30 seconds. By year 4, the pattern had a name, even if only you used it. You called it boring math. The idea that the least glamorous asset in any category was almost always underpriced relative to what it actually generated. A parking lot behind a defunct furniture store in Goshen, 41 spaces, leased to a hospital for employee overflow parking, purchased for $71,000 from a family estate that just wanted it gone. Net, $1,450 a month. A billboard easement on a stretch of Route 33 that a farmer named Dwayne Yoder had been letting sit unused because he didn't know what it was worth. $6,000 flat, plus $200 a month in perpetuity, negotiated over coffee at his kitchen table. A second laundromat, this one in Warsaw, bought from Hal Bramwell's cousin, who'd heard through the family grapevine that you were the guy who actually follows through. $16,000 in, net $410 a month. None of it was fast. All of it compounded. Around year 6, you met Trent Vasilenko at a Chamber of Commerce mixer you almost didn't go to. Trent drove a leased Range Rover he mentioned twice in the first 10 minutes, wore a quarter zip with a golf club logo stitched over the heart, and told anyone who'd listen that he was in commercial development, mostly 8-figure stuff. He asked what you did. You said, rental properties, mostly small ones. He nodded past you before you finished the sentence and found someone else to talk to. You spent the rest of the night quietly buying him a drink he never knew came from you, and left before he noticed you'd gone. Being underestimated, you'd learned, wasn't an insult, it was cover. The harder test came from your cousin, Danny, the same year. Danny's wife was pregnant with their third, and his truck's transmission had gone out the same month his hours got cut at the plant. He called you, not to ask for money, he was careful about that, just to talk. But you both knew what was underneath the call. You could have paid it off in a single transfer and never felt it. You didn't. Instead, you drove up to Fort Wayne, sat at his kitchen table and helped him build a spreadsheet. Actual numbers, actual timeline. A plan to buy a beat-up single-wide car wash bay 11 miles from his house, the kind of asset you knew by now how to spot. You co-signed the loan. You didn't cover the down payment. You'd thought about why for a long time before that call ever came. A check solves a month. It doesn't solve a pattern. Danny didn't need rescuing. He needed what you'd stumbled into by accident, a reason to start paying attention to the things everyone else drove past. Handing him money would have made you feel better for an afternoon. Handing him a method gave him something that couldn't run out. Carol's email is still sitting unopened on your phone when you get back to the truck. The same Silverado, the windshield crack now spidered a little further than it was last winter. You still haven't fixed it. You've told yourself for 3 years it's next on the list, and you've come to understand that it never will be, because some part of you likes having one visible thing that hasn't changed. You open the PDF in the parking lot before you even start the engine. It's not dramatic. It's a consolidated statement across 19 properties, 4 LLCs, and one small billboard easement portfolio that Carol still refers to affectionately as the Dwayne Yoder line item. Real estate holdings net of debt, $61.4 million. Laundromat and car wash operating entities, valued at a conservative multiple, $18.2 million. Parking and easement income streams, capitalized, $9.9 million. Cash and liquid investments, $5.5 million. Total, $95,014,220. You read the number twice. There's no music. Nobody's watching. You set the phone in the cup holder next to a gas station receipt from 2 days ago and a half-empty bottle of water, and you sit there for a minute in a Sherwin-Williams parking lot in Elkhart, Indiana, not doing anything in particular. You think briefly about calling Renee, not to tell her the number, you'd never do that, but just to hear how she'd respond to something ordinary, the way you used to. Then you think better of it. She married someone else's version of a comfortable life, and you built something she was never meant to see the shape of. That was true the day the papers were signed, and it's still true now. The number doesn't change what already happened between you. It just confirms what had already been decided, quietly, over 13 years of Sundays. You start the truck. The engine still hesitates on cold mornings the way it always has. You drive home with 2 paint swatches on the passenger seat, still undecided between oyster white and alabaster, because some decisions are allowed to stay small even when the ones around them got very large. What would the people who think they know you actually see if they ever really looked?